Greetings and welcome to the Solution Podcast, the space where we seek to present constructive solutions to our everyday problems. The Old Harbour Police Subdivision has reported a significant and encouraging downturn in major crimes for the year 2025, with double-digit percentage decreases in both murders and shootings compared to 2024. According to the year-end comparative data released, the division, which encompasses the entire Southwest St. Catherine, recorded a total of 18 murders in 2025, down from 26 the previous year. This represents a decrease of 8 incidents, or a 30.8% reduction. Joining me to discuss this in greater detail is Assistant Superintendent Romario Rankin, Commander in charge of the Old Harbour Subdivision. ASP Rankin, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the Solution. Great to have you.
Good afternoon, my brother. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great year for police. Great year for Old Harbour.
Indeed.
But before you really go into the meat of the matter, just for our listeners, can you just paint the imaginary line of demarcation for the Old Harbour subdivision? Because sometimes people get confused as to where the border lies.
Yes, that's true. So geographically, the subdivision of Old Harbour, so we're bordered to our north by Brownsall, which is also part of St. Catherine North Division and also St. Andrew. We're bordered to our south by the Caribbean Sea, and to the east also by St. Catherine North, where we stop at High House. That is where it meets McCook's Pen. Mm-hmm. And then to the west by Clarendon, where we go to Bodles, where we meet Freetown.
Okay, so Brownsall
to the north.
Right.
High House to our east. To the south, we have the Caribbean Sea. And then to the west, we
have... I know there's part of Boys Content that is Clarendon.
Yes.
Where exactly? It's the main road, that main road that
so how do you put it now? To the left of the main road is Clarendon, to the right would be me. Yes.
Okay, good. So hope that is clear. So a great year for Old Harbour. Old Harbour, I remember a couple of years back, I think we had a high of 36 murders in 1 year. I don't remember the exact year right now, but I think our record is somewhere around there, about 36, right? That was really a difficult year for us here in Southwest St. Catherine, but also nationally too as well. But given these impressive results for 2025, what are your concrete plans to ensure that this trend? Yes, because I know a lot of people say, "Oh, 9-day wonder." What's the concrete plans you have?
All right, so I don't believe in a 9-day wonder. I believe in creating a plan, forging strategies, because once you have strategies, it is easy for persons to follow, because all strategies come with structures. And presently, that's what we have done in the Old Harbour subdivision with the help of High Command. So we have created structures and we have implemented structures and policies for members to work with, and thus far they are working. So all we plan to do is to continue to strengthen them, review them, where we need to make fixes, we'll make the fixes, and we'll continue to execute accordingly.
I know I don't want you to, well, and even so you would not, but I don't want you to give away the plan. Right? But just sort of tell us some of the little things, the little adjustments that you think were really effective. You know, things that you think you can share with us without giving away the A plan, because we know we have an opposing force against the police that we are working with, right? And we can't let them know what's the plan. So that is understandable. But what are some of the little nuances that you think you could share that you think those things would have made a significant difference?
All right, so if we look back at last year, we started out there a bit rocky. So we had to take a break, take a pause, and revamp and see what was actually the issue. So what we did, we were able to see where the little nitty-gritties were that we need to fix, and we came up with solutions to fix those. How we plan to move forward now, we will have varied operational activities going throughout the space, in varied areas of the space to curb whatever criminal activities we're having there. has also increased the community involvement. Because as you all know, if we're looking at last year, as I said before, community involvement really aided in the successes that we have here in the subdivision. So that's what we really be looking at in our sector.
I'm glad you touched on it because the response from civil society is that they want to see a lot more community policing, right? But what I would put to you though is, how were you able to get the support of the community on board?
Alrighty, so as you know, I took over command January 8th of last year. So it's natural for persons to be a bit resistant when it comes down to new person. As a new commander coming in this space, I know I had my own plans. I studied the geography. I knew the challenges that the division faced. I came and inherited an entire new staff, so I had to learn my staff as well. So what I did was to take the time to meet persons face to face, the citizens as well. I realized that my citizens, they have a voice. And we have to realize, even as commanders, and yes, we might say policing is a little bit different, but it takes in them. So I wanted to hear what they had to say. What were the challenges that they were facing? What are some of the things that were impacting them that weren't being reported to the police? Because as we know, not everything is reported. So how our approach to it was for us to go into the community, into the various spaces, into the business establishments, into the marketplace, on the streets. We had community meetings, community engagement activities. We had open air meetings. We had church services. So we engaged our citizens, and that way they were comfortably enough to come to us with the issues that they have and relate to us the challenges, as also the information that we needed. And that is what we utilize to get them on board, to get them comfortable, get them to know who is actually now in charge of the space, get them to know the police officers that will be policing them, and allow them to work alongside us to police their space. Yeah.
At what point in your tenure, because you will be now celebrating 1 year as the commander for the space, but at what stage, maybe the second month, the third month, you felt confident that you have now the full support of the citizens?
Of the citizens? I am going to put it about the third month thereabout. About the third month, yes. That is when persons really started. Because if you're tracking, remember we had a phase of curfews in this space based off of what was happening. After the first curfew, we had a little bit of pushback because persons were saying, is it worth it? Does it really make sense? What are the benefits if the police really reaping any success from it? Well, the strategy that I utilize, I love to communicate, and I believe communication is the key for success, right? So I met with the citizens in the initial stage of my arrival. I let them know the plan, and we agreed on how we'd move forward. When they did not keep up their end of the bargain, we had to impose other strategies to get back things under control. When we got it under control and we were reaping the successes, we called them in again. We sat with them, we meet with them, and we show them, all right, so January we met, we spoke, and we came up with plans and we implemented. And we watched them for a period. Now we're here now after the third month. Now this is what we're reaping. So this is the success that we've reached thus far. Hence, I am now soliciting your continued cooperation for the next 3 months to see if we can continue having this downward trend. And that's when person started to realize that, hey, yeah man, the strategy is actually working. So you know what, let's just buy into it, give him the chance, and see if it actually works. And lo and behold, it did. Because as you right, we went from 20 murders down to 18, which is has been that we not haven't had that in like some 15 months, 15 years.
Yes, yeah,
thereabout.
Yes, that's
so it really really worked.
I know the challenge. I know the challenge that you were facing, right? And it was that you the challenge that you were facing was that you were dubbed the curfew police, right? And during that time, it was very rocky for you because I mean, you come into a new space, You're still learning the environment and the lay of the land. You're still understanding the culture of the people. It was affecting businesses as well. So how do you strike that balance between business and policing as well?
Yes.
And therefore they were not getting that kind of buy-in right there and then. You were not getting that kind of buy-in from them.
Right.
Walk me through those tough moments though for you.
All right. So yes, we had those tough moments. I really didn't let them phase me much. I still do. I have a supporting staff, very supporting staff that keep on encouraging me to say, hey sir, we can get this done. I had my senior sub officers looking at me when I was giving them the plans and how we would move forward, and they saying, Chief, we believe in it and it can work, so we will get it done. So even when we were getting the pushback, what we did not try to overlook their concerns. We listened to their concerns and we met them halfway. So we show persons that if this is not done, then this is what can happen, or this is what is possible to happen, and this is how it will impact you negatively. However, if we can implement this kind of strategy, and it will work, and it works, then this is how it impacts you positively and also helps you to grow your business going forward, because persons want to operate somewhere where they're safe enough. Nobody wants to say, okay, I'm going to leave my house and go to the supermarket, but when I go to the supermarket, I might be shot or I might be robbed. Nobody wants that. Somebody wants a space that they know that whenever I can leave my car open and it will not be stolen. So I brought that to the table and let them understand the pros and the cons for the different strategies that we were implementing, allowed by on their time. It did not stop. But so we tempo. At each level, you give and we take. Yeah.
All right, we're having some bit of technical difficulties. My producer is telling me in my ears. We're gonna just take a quick break and then we'll come back. All right. Stay tuned. Repeat that. Go again. First, apologize for the breaking transmission. We had a power surge. It's raining cats and dogs right now on the outside, and understandably, it affected our live feed. But credit to Mr. Simmons at Master Control, we are now back online, and hopefully, those watching or listening, you are hearing us loud and clear. We will appreciate if you could just drop a comment in the live chat to let us know if you are hearing us properly. Now, welcome again, ASP Rankin. So we were discussing before the intermission that you were seen as the curfew police, right? And you were having those challenges to get the citizens on your side to understand what is it that the security forces are doing in this space. But just walk me through the mental challenges, like I'd asked prior to, before the break, that you had to be grappling with in terms of how do I really get these people now on my side.
All right, Mr. Hansen, again, thanks for having me again. As was previously mentioned, yes, we had the challenge in first 3 months, really. And the reception of the citizens weren't that of what we wanted. But as was mentioned, the team that I have in the subdivision here, very committed team. The management team that sits with me is very much committed. And once they buy into the plans that we had and say, sir, it will work and we are going to let it work, I had no doubt that it was something that we could execute. However, when it came on to the reception from the citizens, what we had to do was allow them to see the vision that we had. So what we did, we had meetings with them. We brought them in. We explained to them what was happening in the space, what needs to be done in order to get the space to where we want it to be. We outlined to them the impacts the negative impacts rather, that it would have on their establishments, their businesses, as for years to come if it continues as it is, and then we gave them the cons to it, the good things that can come from implementing these strategies. So yes, they were a bit reluctant in the initial stage, but they gave us the go-ahead and decided to work with us in the initial stage and to see where or if it would be beneficial to them. After the first 3 months or so of doing all of this, we called them in again. We put it on the table. So we said, all right, last 3 months we brought this to you guys. We asked for your cooperation in this. This is what we have reached thus far. This is the reduction that we are seeing, and it is all thanks to you. Now we are looking to continue what we have started or build on what we have started for betterment, and that is how they gradually started buying into it, success after success, reduction after reduction, and then to what we're at now, as you rightfully put it, 18 from 26.
This I'm sure you can elaborate, but what were the most dangerous pieces of information you were picking up on the ground that if these strategies were not implemented, we would have seen a surge in crime? What were some of those information you were picking up on the ground that requires the strategy that you would have implemented?
Already, so naturally, and it is nothing that is unique to all our subdivision. We had criminals. We had a number of criminal elements working in our space, a number of gang fractions working in our space. And as you know, the Caribbean seas are a border to the south. So it simply means you have the gun for Jug Street that we would have to contend with. So we had a number of persons coming into our space that did not belong to our space, as also the hardened criminals that we had in the space that needed to be given some check. So that is really what we had on the ground, really. We were getting whiff of the plans that the criminal elements had. We were analyzing the statistics from the previous years. And definitely, with what our commissioner had, the goal of a sub 1,000, we definitely had to align ourselves to ensure that our section of the pie matches. So in the larger scale, it would add up to the reduction of that sub 1,000. So definitely that's what we did. Those are the information that we got on the ground. We brought it to our citizens. We did not keep it a private. We allowed them to know exactly what was happening within their space and around them with persons who some of them actually knew. We pulled on that and we asked of them to work with us, partner with us, give up the information, and as such we executed, and definitely we earned their trust in that regard.
And naturally too, you would have those persons who will have to contend with the fear factor, the reprisals.
Right.
And they were obvious fear amongst the citizens, because I remember being at some of those consultation meetings, especially down by Old Harbour Bay, and you will hear some of the residents there saying that, boy, the police, they want to set we up. They want us to come and talk, and next thing you know, somebody come kill me or my family. That naturally is a very delicate situation to deal with. Right? And how do you now sort of give such an individual the confidence to find means and ways now to supply you with information, because they certainly want the peace.
Yes, indeed they do. So we have a number of strategies and a number of avenues that person reached out to us in are on. The JCF have a number of agencies that we partner with that persons could divulge information to, and it reached us. We utilize the different medias to get the information from them. Person utilize different WhatsApp avenues, our 301 pages, our Crime Stop. Those are still being utilized. As also, persons have police officers who they do trust. Might not be from within the space, but be it at wherever they are. So the information was still being received. So what we did was encourage them that if it is a case that you think you don't fully trust the officers that you have now, the officer that you do know, that you actually do trust, give up them the information and they will get the information to me and we will action it. And as such, we did that. We did some community engagement, so we got some information from persons, listening to persons' conversation. You can pick up now and then, because I'll be saying something to you, but I might not say it to you directly. I might be saying it to the other person next to me, but you know that, hey, I'm actually passing on the information to you. So we use our analytical skills and our investigative modems to get the information from persons in very, very different styles and fashion. And as such, we were able to curb what we had in the space.
Okay, great. So you have been able to bring the murder rate down. Shootings also went down by 26%, I think.
Shootings?
Yeah.
Shootings went down by 38%.
All right, beg your pardon. Clearly now you had a grip on controlling the individuals, but also controlling the individuals who are also carrying out these kind of activities. A lot of these persons now are behind bars, are no longer in the land of the living. But that too must be a particular area of concern that you guys will certainly celebrate, that you are able to bring shootings down to that level. Was there any different strategy in that regard in terms of curtailing shooting versus murders, preventing the murders, that sort of thing? Or they are just inextricably linked?
Yes, they're linked. So you can safely say that they're linked, because remember, you can have a shooting and the shooting leads to that of a murder, because the person can be so wounded that after being treated at the hospital, they still do pass away. So the shootings do contribute to murder from time to time. So the same strategy that we utilize to control or to curb the murder rate, it is the same strategy that we also utilize to control the shootings. Because once you control the shootings, automatically controls.
What about robberies, break-ins, cyber crimes?
Yes.
What's the data for 2025 for this space?
Already, so for this space, well, as we can see nationally, we had a spike in the accusatory crimes. Those we have zoomed in on. So for majority of those, we have cleared some. Persons have been taken into custody for committing those offences. But yet, notwithstanding, we still had a little rise, but not that of a lot where we can control it. And definitely, we'll be looking into it for this year. As something that we will be zooming in on. So while we'll be zooming in on the major crimes, we will also be zooming in more on the accusatory crimes to ensure we have everything on a level playing field and a steady reduction going forward.
We tend to hear a lot more about major crimes, the murders and the shootings, robberies and break-ins. But what about cybercrime? Are you seeing an increase or decrease in that in this specific space, the subdivision, or are there any particular case related to cybercrime that stands out to you during 2025?
Not throughout 2025. We've had a few, but not a lot. Not a lot, and nothing of any major significance that we couldn't have dealt with.
Okay. What would be your biggest challenge for 2025 though?
My biggest challenge for 2025. My biggest challenge for 2025, I believe, was getting the citizens to understand the mission. Because remember now, if they don't understand, we offer a service to citizens. And for us to, for the service that we give to be fully appreciated, one have to understand exactly what is being offered to them. So that was where we had the challenge, because if you know the subdivision, you live here, you're from the soil.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, naturally. So you know that the Old Harbour subdivision space it's a mixture of persons.
Yeah.
So the issue, the challenge was to really get everybody to understand and appreciate the mission at the same time. Some persons got it a bit faster, so we were able to execute in some areas quicker.
Right.
And we got control very, very much speedy. So what we did, for the areas where we were having the challenges of getting persons to understand, where we were getting the successes, we used that as the example to outline it to them so they could get a better appreciation of what we were bringing to the table, so everybody could get on board.
Okay. So I remember when I did the story on the reduction for 2025, a lot of civil society were saying that you could see the focus on the hotspot. That is understandable.
Right.
And there was this natural disproportionate focus on hotspots.
Right.
But they do believe that there is a need for a structured, proactive program for the quote-unquote spaces within the division that are not classified as hotspots, but has the potential to flare up and become a hotspot. What's the plan going into 2025 to deal with those? And how did you sort of deal with those areas also in 2025?
So as I rightfully put it, we have areas in the subdivision that are deemed as hotspots. We have areas that are deemed as potential hotspots, as well as they have the areas that we call to be quiet. Nothing is happening in those spaces. We so for 2025, as I had previously mentioned, we had what we call strategic patrolling. So as much as we were paying attention on the major hotspots, we had teams still paying some attention to the potential hotspots, as also we had the other units that were giving the necessary attention to the areas that were still being quiet. So we still have everybody still getting a touch of the police. And definitely for this year, as I said before, we have plans this year that presently is being implemented within the subdivision. So everybody within the subdivision will be getting a touch of the police going forward, notwithstanding whether it's that you're a hotspot, potential hotspot, or you're just a normal area, you will be seeing the ramped up presence of the police officers within your space. We'll be seeing increased operational activities as also community engagement activities to ensure that the reduction that we have now, we can see it at the ending of this year.
Each commander that comes here, they will tell you that they do not have enough men and women. Some on study leave, some on sick leave, some on absent for various reasons. What's your current number now for the subdivision?
For the subdivision, presently, I am staffed with 130.
130.
Yes.
Well, I guess perhaps you would have the most from memory, because I remember at one point in time, I think it was under Commander Mandesa, who is now SSP for St. Andrews South.
Right.
I think at one point he said he had like 75, 76.
Okay.
So you having 130 is considered a blessing.
It is true indeed, it is a blessing, but as you know, there's still some challenges because we have within the subdivision you have the varied departments.
Right.
So you have the stations that needs to be staffed, you have the operational teams that needs to be staffed, the traffic teams, and the varied units that make up the subdivision that need to be staffed. So even though the number might sound big, when you break it down into the subunits, it's really some small numbers, but notwithstanding the numbers that we have, we did not use that as a deterrent factor to say we will not execute.
Right.
No, because what you have to do, and rightfully as I say, I came in as a new commander. You cannot decide that just taking over a space, you're going to go to high command and say, high command, I don't have this, and I'm going to need this in order for me to execute. No, you have to try first.
Right.
Come up with your strategies. Study the geographical location that you have. Know what you will need to do and see how best you can do it with what you have. Get the success with what you have, and then you have the bargaining rights now to go and ask and say, all right, Chief, when I started out, it was a bit rocky. These are the reasons why it was rocky. I never have this amount of manpower. I didn't have this amount of units. I wasn't able to do this. However, me not having all of this, I was still able, or we were still able to reach to this standard. So at this junction now, I'm going to ask of you, sir, if it's possible,
yes,
if you can give me some addition so I can do better for there to come. So that's what I did. And notwithstanding us being here in the subdivision, the largest encompassing subdivision and my high command, they were fully with us. So notwithstanding we not having the manpower attached to the subdivision, the larger division itself still stepped in. So where we needed the assistance, they gave up the assistance. The varied teams came in. The varied members from high command also pitched in and give up the advice, the support, and the assistance where it was needed, so we could execute accordingly.
I know we like to compare ourselves with first world countries like the US and Canada and England, where every few meters you drive, you see a team of police officers parked somewhere, just having presence. We are a population in this constituency of over 60,000 residents right now.
Right.
From your experience, what would be the ideal number in terms of police resources, personnel, in terms of personnel? You have 130. No. What? I mean, you don't have to be specific, but I mean, just give an estimate in terms of like what would be ideal in terms of where for just those persons who have this ambitious ideal in their head, and especially those who travel abroad and they will constantly see just the presence. So, for example, if you're leaving here from Old Harbour and you're going to Gutters, you'll perhaps pass 2 to 3 sets of police officers parked
along
the way, and that is very reassuring to citizens, and they would love to see Jamaica get to that space, or well, in this case, Southwest St. Catherine get to that space.
Right.
I mean, your number would have to be double, you think, in order to achieve something like
maybe double, yes, maybe in order for that, because we have to look at the geography. And as you rightfully said, the subdivision span is very wide.
Yes.
And then it's a mixture of both rural
and urban, semi-urban.
Semi-urban, yeah, exactly. So you would have to look at how much persons would you need to man the semi-urban space,
yes,
compared to that of the rural areas.
Right.
And then not only that, you would want to look at the varied units that you would know will have to derive. Because for the rural areas, you would want to say, no, you're going to derive an agricultural patrol, right? Because they do a lot of farming. You for the school, you would still want to, because we account for 10 government schools within the zone. You would want to have SROs for all those schools, and at least 2 per shift. And then you'd have to staff out your BOPDs to put them in the varied areas. So if you want to look at it from that direction, then it being doubled would be the sufficient number to cover it. But until then, we cannot have that as a factor to say we cannot execute. Until then, we work with what we have, come up with the various strategies, pull on our partners, and continue to execute.
Let me just go back a little bit to when you just came here in January of last year. I remember yourself and I think it was Inspector Troy Bill Hart. DSP, no?
No, SP, yes.
He's now DSP?
No, he's SP operations, St. Catherine's South.
Okay. And you mentioned some person of interest who were advised or instructed, however you want to look at it, to turn themselves into the police. But what's the current status now of some of those persons? I know you'd have 1 or 2 persons who would have experienced ended up being in a fatal confrontation with the officers. But how many of those persons are still quote unquote at large that the police still have an interest in?
So from that number, I think we had given a number of 7, right?
Yeah, around that.
I think a number of 7, and from that 7, I think we have about 3 or 4 that are still at large that we still are focusing on.
Who are those persons?
So presently, I will not make mentions of the names right now, but I will furnish you with them, so you can put them forward at a later date.
Well, fair enough. What about the clear-up rates? For those persons who you would have apprehended, charged, put before the court, what's the clear-up rates now like?
As it relates to what exactly?
To the major crimes.
To major crimes.
Those persons who would have.
So we're looking at somewhere between 80 to a 90% clear-up rate presently for last year. Yes. So majority of the major crimes that we've had have been cleared. So that we have given thanks for, and that is all credit to our investigative arms and the operational team.
I know many Jamaicans don't have an issue with the term cleared up rates, because cleared up doesn't mean conviction.
Right.
But I know the police have always been quick to point out that they have no control of once the matter is now placed before the court. That is totally out of the ambit of the
That's
police.
The judiciary,
right. And therefore, it is still deemed a success the fact that you have been able to put this person before the court based on the evidence that you would have garnered, and whether they are found guilty or not, then that is totally out of your view. And a lot of persons I know they have an issue with that, because they are saying that cleared up shouldn't be classified as a success.
Okay.
Because what if you put 20 persons before the court for different crimes, and the court was only able to convict 5? Then a lot of persons will see that as a failure. I would want you to just sort of explain in layman terms to the uninitiated, why cleared up is defined in such a way, and why it is still deemed as a success.
Okay. All right, I'll try my best for that one for you, Sir Hansen. So when you track the statistics each year, you look at the number of murders that you get, right? And as such, you try to reduce that number for the following year, right? Getting the murder is one. Solving the murder is the next thing. When we solve them, that is when we deem them cleared. So whether it is a case that it was cleared posthumously, and that is normally either by fatals or otherwise, or it's a case where the person was taken before the court and was sentenced. Bear in mind now, we don't call it that it is cleared until it is finished. So whatever we deem as clear, it has been before the judiciary already, and the finals of it were already come to, and as such the result came back to us. And with that result, it is safe to say that yes, it's either this person was already convicted, or the person was convicted and is now serving time, or other prior, it was cleared posthumously. But even posthumously, the investigation still have to be done. So all the necessaries would have been done from the police point to put the file itself together for it to go forward. And then whenever time it is now deemed cleared, all the relevant persons up top who would have now reviewed that file, they would have to come to terms to say, all right, everything that is within the ambits of policing were followed, all the necessaries were done, all the various documentations are attached, all the various statements are attached, and all the points to prove are there, and it is concrete enough, and all the evidence are timed into it to say, yes, that person was the guilty person, that person the person that actually did it, before it is considered to be clear.
But an acquittal will also be considered that that file is cleared because the person was brought before the court tried, but then acquitted.
It all depends on what grounds the acquittal was done. And it all depends on what matter you're looking at.
Explain.
Because if you're looking at a clear-up rate for murders, remember, you would have an acquittal in something of that sort for us to say the murder is cleared, because then it wouldn't be clear.
Right.
You understand? But if you're looking at it from the aspect of an assault, say for an assault now, remember now it is between two persons that would send that to the courts, right? So you will have the accused plus the victim being present in court. Then normally they would go through a trial, or it goes by the judge. Right? If it's the case that after that is done through the judiciary deems it that okay, then whatever was reported by the victim does not hold water then, or it is not evidential enough for this accused to be so incarcerated, then you probably have that person being released. It doesn't mean that justice was never served. It just means that before the courts, or whatever was brought to the court, and the judge makes his or her ruling, it stands, and we, the police, now work with whatever that ruling is. So if it's a case for us now, we would take that ruling for the minor crimes, especially for those in the assault cases, and we will now attach whatever the ruling is from the judge, and then for us it would be closed. Because all of the policing aspects of it would have now come to an end, unless the matter is reopened.
How do you think you have been able to solve a lot of those hard cases? The murders, the shootings. What would have changed during I think you said you're in your 10th year as a police officer?
Well, heading there
now, right? What I think has changed that have really give the security forces now a clear advantage now in solving crimes at a much faster rate now, because that is very clear nowadays.
Right. Transparency and involvement. Transparency and involvement. I'll give it that much.
Explain it.
Transparency in the sense that you, as we all know, the JCF is ISO 9001 certified.
What that means? Yeah, because we tend to see that as ISO 935, but a lot of persons were like, what that means to the layman, in a nutshell.
So it's an international standard that it outlines certain principles and guidelines that the organization must follow. And it mainly zoom in on accountability. The responsibilities of persons, holding everybody accountable at every level. So nothing is left untouched or unnoticed, rather. And what it does was also it boosts the transparency of whatever was happening within the GCF, because as you know, the varied oversight bodies would cramp down on the GCF already.
Right.
Right? And with all of these implementations and necessary I's that we have to dot and T's that we have to cross, and the different levels of accountability, it has now allowed the citizens to track what is happening and be able to, while we are coming up with the solutions, they are a part of
The solution
themselves. Yes.
So you have basically plugged those gaps
Right.
that would have existed, perhaps before you decided to join the force. So, but still, we still hear a lot of criticism from Indicom, Jamaicans for Justice. We're hearing now this heightened call now for body-worn cameras. Is that a clear indication that there's plenty room for improvement, especially as it relates to the era of accountability that you touched on a while ago?
Well, I won't speak for the entire GCF because our corporate communication is deal with that.
Right.
However, from my perspective, what I'll say is that in everything you must have an oversight.
Yes.
You understand? So if it's the case that you're just working without anybody giving you feedback or anybody judging what you're doing or analyzing what you're doing,
Right.
then you won't know where you're falling short or where you're actually improving.
Right.
So all the varied oversight bodies that you hear or might come out to say X, Y, Z, yes, they must. And we have to come to terms as citizens and as people that yes, they're there for a reason. And without them, then possibilities that things might fall off in different phases. But once they're present, they help us to monitor ourselves, monitor what we're doing, as also help us to continue to improve ourselves as we're improving already. And as I said, definitely we do welcome the criticism.
Right.
Because it's a must. It helps us to keep afloat.
Well, fair enough. The just quickly. How do you maintain staff morale? Because I mean, we know that police officers are the job of a police officer is never complete. You could just leave work, and then there's an issue. There's an issue on the street that you have to attend to immediately. Right. The psychosocial support, the mental issues that many of the officers them have to deal with, because they have their personal life too as well.
Right.
What strategy you have been implemented with the men and for the men and women under your watch to keep them motivated and operate on high morale?
Alright, so a few things that are, so as rightfully put it, they're humans.
Yeah.
So they're first somebody's sons and daughters.
Yeah.
Or our child's mother or father, right? As managers within the JCF, or I'll say within the subdivision here, as we're speaking about the subdivision, as I encourage my staff to know their leaders, I also take the time to know the staff that I have. And I encourage my level of managers that I have that works alongside me to also know the persons that they have working under their command. When you get to know the persons that you have under your command, the officers that you have, when you get that level of trust between you and them, you allow that officer to be able to come to you and to bring the issues that they're having, whether it be work related or personal, and you help to guide that person through it. So what I tell my officers, hey, all of your problems, bring them, come give me. Leave your problems with me in my office and go to road to work. I will deal with your problems, and when you come back, you get the solution and you can go home and feel comfortable. But outside of that, and allowing them to be able to vent and allowing them to be able to give their feedback, we allow them to be a part of the decision making so they don't feel left out. Because as much as they are considered to be juniors in rank, they still have a voice and they still have something to add. So we include them in it. And that inclusion gives them that sense of purpose and that sense of wanting to belong. Because take for example an operations team. If I have a hotspot that is acting up, and I know that this team will have to work there, and that is the team that has been working there for a period of time, I can sit in my office and decide that, hey, the patrol is no longer going to go from north to south, it's going to go east to west, without consulting anybody. I have to consult. I believe that I need to consult them, get their feedback, because they're in the space, know what they are picking up when they're out there operating, what is happening, how do you think that you can make it better. Sometimes I already have the answers and I already have the fix to the problem, but I still want to hear what is it that you have to contribute. Because 3/4 of the time, you might have something and you think it's so simple, but it still does plug the gap. So we allow them to give up their own input to the solution making, and then we utilize it in whatever. And if it's a case that it is your idea utilized and it is successful, I ensure that you get the glory that is deserving to you. I ensure that everybody knows that, hey, this man contributed to the solution that fixed the problem. And outside of that, we have our quarterly get-togethers and our month-end limings to ensure that we build back the spirits at the end of the month. Cook some food, have some juice, just relax, unwind. We have different internal things that we've started, like for the subdivision here. We had the Officer of the Month award that we launched early. I think it was August thereabout of last year. Okay. Yes, thereabout. So we launched the Officer of the Month. So what that does, it highlights that person who has been exceptional for that month, and that person is also awarded at the end of that month. So it encourages that person to want to continue to do it, as also it encourages the others who weren't doing it to say, hey, I want my picture to be up there as well. I want persons when they come to the station to see Officer of the Month, and I am the person that is up there. So these are just some of the little things that we use to pull persons. Yeah.
What's the strategy for this year to even improve upon that? Because it sounds very good, but do you think there is still room to improve in boosting staff morale?
Definitely, there's always room to improve. So now we coupled with what we had for last year, we are now looking for this year to see how best we can now work with them in how would you put it now, evolving themselves mentally, educationally, physically, and any other alley that we can assist them in.
Right.
So outside of just giving them the normal boost of morale, we are now allowing them to better themselves and feel more comfortable in themselves to say, hey, I have achieved this, whether it be in schools or whether it be a degree or it be whatever, it be a diploma or it's a certificate. The mere fact that you can push them into getting it, or what we do sometimes now is that we partner with the different agencies. So presently we partner with Heart Trust. So there are different courses that the Heart Trust offers that we now encourage the members to take advantage of. And when they are part of these now, the supervisors, they will study their timetables for their classes and ensure that they're flexi, that they can still perform their policing duties while still evolving educationally.
So I picked up something a while ago from you. So here it is that you have 130 men and women under your watch.
Yes.
And one of the ways that you have articulated a while ago is, in how to boost staff morale. You say, take your problems to me and I will deal with them. You go out there and deal with policing. But you're still a relatively young police in both age and experience still.
Indeed.
What about you?
Alrighty,
how do you structure your whole life to deal with the problems of 130 men and women under your watch?
Yes.
While having your own personal problems to deal with and stay focused?
So I think it has to do with, how you put it now, scheduling.
Yeah.
So when I am at work, I am engulfed by work. Everything that happens, I want to know. And I tell it I want to know. When I am not there physically, and I have somebody acting in my capacity. For example, I have a zone supervisor acting for me when I am not there presently, right? Even though I'm not there, I still want to be in the know. But it does not encroach on my self time. So I still make time for myself to unwind, to relax, put work on a pause at least for an hour or two, and just forget about it and just clear my mind and get back to it. And I think I've reached a point now where it doesn't really faze me that much. I have learned, how do you put it now, enough for me to be able to juggle properly and still be balanced. Yes. And naturally I have my seniors that I can call and I relay information to, and they will give me the advice naturally. So it's still balanced. I have a support system that works.
You have a support system, but I mean, you have a very huge level of responsibility.
True.
I remember speaking to you a couple of times where you also act as the operation officer for St. Catherine South.
Right.
And also from time to time you will fill in for Superintendent Gray, yes, who is the commander for the entire St. Catherine South. So while you are still the commander for the subdivision, clearly the JCFC some very, very good qualities in you where they see it fit to have you act in some instances as the interim operations officer or as the interim commander.
Well, not so much the interim commander. We do the interim commander mostly on weekends, because we have the senior officers' duties on weekends, where the commander can get a break and get to refresh his mind, as you rightfully put it.
Right.
So you'd have an officer who holds probably a day, or in some divisions the entire weekend, or in some cases for us a 12-hour shift. So it's just in those instances that I would hold for Mr. Gray. But as you rightfully put it, in the latter part of last year, I was holding as interim operations officer for St. Catherine South. As I had said before, all of these added responsibilities, what you have to learn to do when you're in command position is how to delegate. So yes, I might be managing more than one portfolios at the same time, but it doesn't mean that all the workload that comes with these portfolios, I am taking them on by myself. No. I have capable persons working alongside me. I have capable inspectors, capable sergeants. They're there. All you need to do is break up the work, take your section from it that you know that you must deal with as the commander, and the other sections you break them down to the varied levels and you pass them on. And then from your seat you guide. So you give feedback, you allow persons to execute, while you stay from the sideline and watch what they're doing, and where the guidance is needed, you give up the guidance. That way you don't have yourself micromanaging persons, because it's when you start micromanaging, then the bulk of the work really tumbles down on you.
So I'm going to touch on a very, very, I don't say sensitive, but it is a topic that is dear to many natives of Old Harbour. So we had the issue of the curfew, where you had to implement a lot of curfews to take full control of the space, and we saw the benefit of that. A fall in murders, a fall in shootings, and other accusatory crime that you mentioned of. But Old Harbour is famous as a for its night culture.
Yes.
That is something that I don't think any town in Jamaica has so many round robins and all of those activities. I think there are over 50 different round robins that is held every single night in Old Harbour. Right? The bandwagon, the independence and the Christmas street dances and all of that that used to take place. A lot of people feel like the police some blame is leveled at the feet of the police because they think that the police was overreaching in that respect, right? But now that the numbers are looking good, and I'm sure the objective is to either bring those numbers lower,
Indeed.
right? But what is it that you think the police can do to help bring back that night culture in Old Harbour? Mark you can still get up at 2 o'clock in the morning if you're hungry and come into Old Harbour town and find food and find a taxi to carry home.
Yeah.
That still exists.
Yeah.
But the night culture is a big part of the Old Harbour economy.
Right.
Right? How do you see the police playing a role in whatever way to really help restore that night culture in Old Harbour town?
Already. So as you rightfully put it, we started out with some curfews. And it really cramped some people.
Yes.
But what we have to understand is that where there is no control, where there is no appreciation for what is right and for the law of the land,
right,
then we cannot operate. So yes, we had was to get the space back, and we had to implement the curfews in order for us to get it back to where we wanted. What we did, yes, the promoters, they did cry. But we called them in. As I rightfully tell you, communication is something that I believe in. So anything I'm going to do, I'm going to call and let you know that, hey, this is what is going to come for you if you don't do this. So what we did, we met with the promoters and we ironed out certain things with them and let them understand that, hey, I am not saying that the parties can't keep it up, but you must apply for your permit. Because what it does, it helps us to understand and to know where what is being held within the space, so we know how to position the assets that we have on the ground in order for the event itself to be covered and the patrons there and you, the operators, being safe, while also we can maintain that level of law across the subdivision itself. So it's not a case that we did not allow them to have it any at all. We allowed them to have it, but you had was to follow particular guidelines, and we're still utilizing it. So we the mainstream parties are back on the run. So the promoters are in full swing. Persons are coming in to apply for the permit. However, you're aware that if you don't apply for a permit and you're keeping a party and my officers turn up, we will definitely shut it off.
You have been in this space for a year now, you said. There has been this debate for entertainment zones across Jamaica. I'm narrowing it down though to the Old Harbour, right? Yes. Do you see any location within the constituency that you think would be an ideal entertainment zone? In other words, as you know, the entertainment zone would be outside of the far removed from residential community, residential areas, but it would be ideal. Do you see any location in the space that you think this would be ideal, easy to police, easy for patrons to get there, it's not impeding with residents that much?
Alrighty, so presently we have 1 and 2 areas that we utilize for like the big events, and that would be the old bus park, because that's a secured location, there's parking and everything. And then you have 40 on our East Street, off East Street there, where you have that big lot that can also host an event as also have parking for that. Outside of that, I wouldn't really say we have empty lots per se that can be so turned into an entertainment zone. Because what persons have to understand, within the subdivision you have a number of housing schemes, and it's not like they're all in one
space. No, they're all over,
Yeah.
both north, south, east, and west. So everywhere you take it, excuse me, you will have the noise being a problem to somebody. So really and truly, I wouldn't say we have a zone per se that you can now turn into an entertainment zone that really would not contribute to some noise nuisance.
You know, I know a lot of people will hear your answer and say, boy, they still think you need to relax some of the rules, or the police is too is too hard. They still have the issue of the parties being locked off too early, but the law is at 2 o'clock. After
Yes.
2 o'clock, that's it.
Yes. So you work with the permit. So if the permit says 2 o'clock, you close off at 2. And I would advise you to start shutting down at 1:45. So at 2 o'clock, you are all out of there because 2 o'clock your party ends.
I think it's a cultural thing, you know. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah, man. It's a cultural thing in Old Harbour here for persons to go to party at 2 o'clock.
We are accustomed in Old Harbour, but I think also across Jamaica too as well. But at Old Harbour is an exception, because I know persons, they start to get ready to go to a party at 1 o'clock.
Yes. Yes.
From their home, so they will take a 2-hour nap
Mm-hmm.
and then get up at 1 o'clock
Right.
to get themselves ready to go to a party.
Right.
With the hope or view that the
event
party
continues.
will go up until sunrise,
No.
right? And I just can't understand why we can't start the party at say 8 o'clock
Mm-hmm.
and finish at 2 o'clock. Because the truth of the matter is that nobody parties for 5 hours straight.
Unless it's a rave.
Yeah, and it's a rave, right? And then I know you have parties like Chuggy who sort of changed the
Yes.
culture somewhat, in which their party would start at 2
Mm-hmm.
and it ends exactly 10 o'clock in the night. So that's 8 hours. But of course, the
Yeah, man.
party wouldn't start to climax until like it reached 6, 7 o'clock. Right?
More like 10.
Right. No, but exactly at 10 o'clock, Chuggy.
Oh,
ends.
for the ones that end at 10?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
right.
so I used to always ask the question, why all the other party promoters can't copy that?
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, if you know the timeline, the cutoff time is 2 a.m. I would, if I'm a promoter, I would certainly want to have my party start at say 8 o'clock
Mm-hmm.
and try to end at 1 o'clock, because 4 or 5 hours of partying, it's that's a lot of time to enjoy yourself.
Well, the promoter himself have to be obedient to the law. For 3/4 of the time, if you realize when you have the spillovers, the promoters themselves are the persons who are actually not sticking with the permit, or they don't actually have a permit. So those are the ones you'll have the police officers going to shut them off. As you rightfully put it, for chugging, the promoters know that, hey, the permit that I've got
Is it
says XYZ, and I know I'm going to want to keep this party again. So what am I going to do? I have to abide by what is stipulated, right?
Yeah.
And as such, I am going to turn off at 10. So it keeps me on the safe space. As also the patrons who are attending these events now realize that, hey, the party say starts at 2 p.m. and ends at 10. At 10 it is going to be shut off because the promoter is not going to risk it. So they are going to come out, and if it's a case that they want to be there, they will be present. So what other promoters need to do, and that will be the promoters who are promoting the not so big events,
Right.
they probably need to start looking at the persons who are they're admiring and realize, take some of their characteristics then.
Yes.
Implement some of their style of business or of work into yours and see if it works for you. Because 3/4 of the time, when persons get up to say, hey, they are being pressured by the police, it's always because you're in the wrong. And nobody thinks that, hey, I'm keeping a party and it is not causing any disturbance, so why should I shut it off?
the counter argument to some from the promoters, though, here in the Old Harbour space, they will tell you that nobody's coming out at 10 o'clock to a party. And again, I think it just comes down to the culture.
Thank you.
That is normalized. So the culture in Old Harbour is that people start to not reach the party at 1 o'clock, but start to get ready from their home at 1.
For a 2 o'clock ending.
And I just can't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
I just can't understand that.
You know, promoters have to be the persons to really get them to understand that, hey, this is what it is. I have obtained a permit, and the permit closes off at 2. The 2 o'clock the event ends. As also the music personnel who are contracted for these events, they have to understand that at 2 o'clock you pack up your stuff. So the promoter really understand that, hey, you're not really running any joke, The law says 2 o'clock you're done, your permit expires at 2 o'clock. Your permit expires and the party ends. Persons who are interested into coming to that party, and next time will now realize that, hey, yeah man, it's really 2 o'clock the party ends for 2, so I really need to get ready and head out.
Somebody just messaged me and said, I must definitely put this question to you.
What's that?
The traffic situation.
Yes.
With the taxis, keeping the space clear for pedestrians. Are there any new strategies to deal with that? It's a perennial problem that predates you.
Indeed.
But how do you plan to really make a lasting impression? Because it seems to be a cat and mouse game between the taxi operators and the police. As soon as the police move the taxi man, then go back to the side.
So we have reached out to our partners, that's the municipality, because they're in charge of the various bus parks that we have in the space.
Right.
And they have made some pledges to do some upgrades to the bus parks, increase the security, the lighting and stuff, get it up to standard. So once that is fully up to par, we will go in fully with the enforcement of saying, hey, getting some signs erected where the signs are supposed to be and gazetted, and the continued execution. Presently, we have controlled the congestion in the town somewhat, persons can rightfully say, since we have the extension of the toll down by Boodle's end there, because what it does, it draws the traffic that normally comes up South Street to head on West Street. Instead of coming that side now, persons just go all the way down to Boodle's and just take that slip road and come up. So that has now diverted some of the traffic from here. We have looked at in the evening where we have a heavy traffic. We have a traffic personnel down on South Street at Walker's Road there, diverted that to the traffic onto Walker's Road. So if it is a case that you don't necessarily have to come into the town centre, then you divert to Walker's Road onto East Street and you head into the gutter space or the Churchman area. Right. So that reduces the level of vehicles that passes through the town centre. And naturally we have the BOPD out there ensuring that the pedestrians are being safe and their safety is also looked out for, because we still have the vending on the sidewalk and so. So that we have curbed, so now our pedestrians can now utilize the sidewalks and not the road, which also used to contribute to the congestion.
For me, one of the issues that I have with how the municipalities across Jamaica, not just for St. Catherine, how they operate. One, in this day and age, no bus park should close at, I think it's 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock.
Yes,
they close.
Yes.
All transportation centers should operate 24/7. That's one. Two, you in this day and age, it's time for you to install some CCTV cameras and connect them to the nearest police stations. Connect it to Jamaica Eye. Proper lighting, proper cameras. I guarantee you at night taxi drivers will now start to operate within those parks.
Right.
Because what will now happen is that just in case there's an abduction of one of their colleagues or of an individual, then you're talking about you'll be able to use the footage from those cameras as evidence, right? And it will certainly give the police somewhat of an advantage to close those cases as soon as possible.
Indeed.
Right? So I find that quite mysterious, right? That in this day and age, that is something that is not expedited, right? It when they will say, for example, the bus park at the market on East Street, and the taxi operators now will park right in front of Trumfat and Jane Bank there, and they're going to tell me that the light in the market, in the bus park, is poorer. When I look at it, that can't be true. But guess what? I understand. You need some floodlights.
Yes.
But in this day and age, you close your transportation centers. You go to any transportation center in the world, especially in the developed countries, they're all open. At 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, you can go to a transportation center and utilize the public or private transport system that exists there.
All right.
So we need to move in that direction, in my view. That if you're really serious about, creating that space for law and order, and to get the public buy-in, those things are to me, are low-hanging fruits.
All right.
I want to put this question to you. Do you have any update on Jamaica Eye coming into Old Harbour?
Yeah, so we should be having them here soon. That's as
what
much
the
as I
cost
would
was.
say.
Last year, this year, next year,
No,
2
man.
years from now?
No, man. So they're in the process of sorting it out. So they're in the process now of getting the control center up and running fully. Because they know we would have
for this post, a control center for this space?
No, man. So it would be for south.
For south.
Because presently now we would be on north.
Okay.
Because it would be one St. Catherine.
Right.
So presently it's not now for to get the center up and running fully. And once the center is up and running fully, then all the various cameras will be placed in the various areas, and then we will have a full show.
That will be headquartered over by 100 man?
Naturally, yes.
Okay. That sounds good. What's the most important ongoing support you think you need from the public and from the police high command, or even the St. Catherine South high command, or maybe Era 4, Era 5, you fall on that, right? To build on the success that you have had for 2025?
Well, presently, what I would say is just continued collaboration. We already started something that is strong. We were to derive some new plans, and we were able to implement them with the assistance of our citizens, the cooperation of High Command, and the various other agencies that takes place within the space. And we're able to implement, and we were able to reap the successes of it in last year. So what we're looking for this year is just for the continued communication and collaboration from all of our major stakeholders within our space, as also continuously from our High Command, and definitely we will continue to excel. Where we fall short, as I said before, naturally, I don't hesitate to make the request to get off the assistance. So definitely I don't see any problems going forward for this year. Just continued collaboration, improved and more communication, and definitely at the end of 2026, we should be seeing, we will be seeing a further reduction.
Yeah, you have been very brilliant in answering the question. Some of the questions very, very politically correct, but I'm going to put this one at you. What I think you will ask your superior for this year?
What I will ask my superior for this year?
I think is needed.
That I think is needed?
Yeah, for this subdivision.
What I'll ask my superior for? Probably continued guidance, definitely. Yes. Continued guidance and continued insight. Because remember now, as you had put it, they're my superiors.
Yes.
So they sit at a higher level.
Right.
And they're able to scrutinize what I am doing down here. So all I would continue to ask for is just a continuous feedback. Because I love feedback.
Right.
So just the continuous feedback and the continuous guidance going forward. And we should do good.
You have enough support vehicles? How many vehicles you have assigned to you?
How many vehicles I have assigned to my subdivision?
Operational side.
4. So we have 4 vehicles assigned to the subdivision, but outside of that, we're still a part of the big St. Catherine South.
Right.
So all the units that are within St. Catherine South are still at.
So you can call, you can
Yes,
get
just one phone call to our ops officer or to the divisional commander, and I tell you, definitely, they do respond.
I must put this to you though. I mean, you're still pretty young. You have a bright future ahead of you. What's the ambition for you?
What's the ambition for me?
Yeah.
Outside of continued self-development, it's just more self-development, definitely. I am finishing up my studies, continuing my studies rather.
In what area that is? What just
Management.
Okay.
Yes, I am looking at improving myself when it comes on to the knowledge of the work, because the GCF continues to evolve every day or every year rather, if you want to look at it from that way. So everything that is implemented new, I try to get myself up to speed with it, because as you rightfully put it, as a young commander with a young staff, you're expected to know everything. So I try to ensure I have the requisite information and arm myself and equip myself with the knowledge, so whenever time my juniors come to me, I can divulge of the information and give off the proper guidance. Definitely to take some time for myself and really do some self-introspection and see where, yes, I probably need to make some changes or do some brushing up outside of policing and outside of my academics, and just continue to embrace it. Continue to pull other persons along with myself, because I don't believe in climbing alone. I believe that, yes, I'm an assistant soup. No, I will definitely be putting down those 2 stars. I believe that I must create the next person to come and take it up. You understand? If it's not going to take it up right now, I'll put it down.
Right.
But I must at least create or help to propel somebody in that trajectory to say, hey, that is what I'm going after. So that is all a part of what I plan for my self-development for this year. So it's not only self-focused, but it is also focused on the persons who I can impact as much as possible, and always positively, because you want the betterment of the subdivision, the organization at large, and the country itself, as also for every person that comes in contact with you. They must be able to say, hey, I learned something from that person, and this person has impacted me for me to want to do or to go further beyond.
Is Romario Rankin a future commissioner of police for Jamaica?
Future commissioner of police of Jamaica, I think so. So we will wait and we'll see. And that's that. I think we're on the trajectory right now. We're aligning ourselves with the proper goals and ethos for the GCF, and what the GCF is looking forward. So we are futuristic. You understand? I look way beyond. As you rightfully put it, I am young, but I think like that of an old person. I have been told a number of times. So I try not to look at the now. I try to look at what we're doing now. How does it impact next week? How it impacts next month? Next year, how it contributes to that. You understand? So as I told my colleagues, I am creating, or I'm helping now to create the GCF that I want to see in the future when I get to that level.
Right.
You understand? So the police officers that I want to work with, and the police officers that I want to know that when I sit in my office, whether as assistant commissioner, deputy commissioner, or commissioner, I want to know that the officers that are on the ground, who are working out there, are persons who I can confidently say that, yes, I have contributed to what we have out there. So I am positive that they can execute the work that is being given at them, and the task that is being given will be done to such a level that it can stand to the scrutiny of the country.
What do you like about Old Harbour?
What do I love about Old Harbour? I love the dynamics. I think I love the challenge. I always accept a challenge, because it tests me per se as a leader, as also as a manager. So Old Harbour really gives me that drive to want to continue to learn and to want to continue to work.
We are looking forward
Indeed.
to bringing you back to this space in which we will certainly talk about the boy from Ginger Hill.
Bread Nut Walk, to be exact.
Bread Nut Walk in Westmoreland, right?
In St. Elizabeth.
St. Elizabeth.
Right.
That would be northwest St. Elizabeth region.
On the cockpits, yes.
Yes. We definitely want to talk about that.
Indeed.
About your journey into the force from Bread Nut Hill.
Yeah.
To where you are, and possibly future commissioner of police. Mr. Rankin, thanks very much. We are certainly happy to have you. And we're looking forward to speaking to you again throughout the course of this year. And feel free. Hopefully, we'll make yourself available again.
Indeed. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for coming. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. ASP Romario Rankin giving us a bit more insights into the operations of the police here in the subdivision of Old Harbour. And we certainly wish him well, he and his team. And we commend them for the work that they have been doing. And we look forward to building the relationship between the police and the citizens as well going forward. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, sir, for having me. And I'll also, in closing, thank and express gratitude, if you might allow me, to the staff that I have here in the subdivision for the exceptional work that they have been doing. I have 2 station commanders that have been doing exceptionally to ensure that their staff is up to speed and is up to par, while also my unit commanders has also been executing exceptionally. So definitely, before leaving, I want to express my gratitude to the staff that have here in the subdivision. Thank you for having me.
All right, then, man. Thanks. All right, so see you next time, folks. Bye-bye.